hot as he usually is.
Brown drives, way off the glass.
That's not the first time we've seen a superstar in green and white sacrifice the body.
Knocked away.
Welcome into another episode of First to the Floor. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Alongside me, Derek White, aficionado, Jake Eisenberg. Jake, how's it going, man?
Mate, I'm good. The waves have been surfed. The Al Horford propaganda has been produced. We're getting ready to take a flight. Life's good. How's it going?
Love it, man. I'm great. Never been better. Feeling amazing. I did go out with a buddy last night that I haven't seen in a long time. So a little busted up today, but we're going to get through it just like the Celtics got through it on demand yesterday.
Ben flu game. But
it's a bit of a flu game. You're going to hopefully Scottie Pippen me over to the bench there during a timeout. Look, the Celtics, 9-2, first seed in the East. They've won 4 in a row. Most recently, last night in Philly, where some poorly educated Sixers fans shit-talked Al Horford into a vintage Al Horford performance against Joel Embiid. Jake, what stood out to you with this one?
How have they not learned yet? I don't understand. I did see that Dave Portnoy was at the game with Patrick Beverley's co-host on the podcast and kind of shit-talking him courtside. And
okay.
I have a feeling that the person shit-talking Al Horford was Patrick Beverley's co-host. So thank you to whatever that guy's name is. Patrick Beverley, I think over 4. You're just basically invisible, which makes me very, very happy. You can give, I think the game ball goes to 1 or 2 guys, but it's either Derek, who I had a beautiful time with yesterday evening.
I'm glad it all went well, Jake.
Yeah, beautiful. He really enjoyed his 36 hours away from, not that he doesn't love his new child, but just couple good nights sleep. He's feeling good before he heads up to Toronto. But really, it was the big dog, the OG. We got vintage Al Horford. Some might say you got this version of Al Horford.
In this kind of atmosphere.
Playoff Al, baby! Playoff Al!
Hey.
Yes, big game Al, playoff Al. I love it, man.
Dude, I can't get over how high Jayson Tatum's voice is in that one. Like
He was a boy.
He was a boy, but he wasn't that young. Like
long boy.
19. Jeez, like was my voice that high when I was 19?
Probably.
Probably. But yeah, man, the big dog, vintage Horford. We kind of spoke about in the last episode. Will we see Al Horford ramp it up with Porzingis questionable? And boy, did we take the big dog out for a ride yesterday. He was awesome. I don't know how he got all of that done in 28 minutes. When I went and looked at the box score,
Is that all he played?
Yeah, 28 minutes and 49 seconds with Luke Cornett playing the other 19 and a half minutes. 14 points, 5 or 9 from the field, 4 or 8 from 3, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 blocks, held Embiid to 20 points, 42 possessions. Al Horford was the primary defender on Embiid, 14 points, 7 for 14 shooting. Just all around absolute dominating performance from the 37-year-old.
And he gave us this vintage moment, which is going to go down in the Celtics lore as well.
Celtics moving it, Al Horford sticking it, Al Horford letting them know.
The kiss.
The kiss.
The kiss of death. So good. Well played, Al Horford. Well played. Just expertly executed performance against Joel Embiid. And, he probably, you could say fairly, that he's given us some reason so far this season to, I don't know if doubt's the right word, but maybe not have as high expectations as to what the peak of his performance might be in a game where it's desperately needed. And he's out there hitting threes like he's had no trouble with that all season. He's locking down Joel Embiid. He's switching. He's anchoring the defense there, playing drop. Just doing everything perfectly. Yeah, he missed a couple of shots, but really very few.
4 for 8 from 3. Barely.
just very few poor moments in this game and plenty of good ones for Al Horford. So hopefully that sort of like spurs him on a little bit, I guess, Jake, as far as like, I think it's fair to say that he's had some trouble finding his footing in his adjusted role this season. So nothing better than to spur him on than an amazing performance against the Sixers here.
Yeah, I know. And I think, I'm not sure if it was last episode, but, you brought up that, Al Horford wasn't necessarily, quote, thrilled with the new role. And it was hard for us to imagine what that looks like for Al Horford. Like, he's never going to be the bad teammate. And Al Horford's way of, like, showing that he's mad has been just playing his role off the bench as well as he knows. He's like, I'm going to rebound like I've never rebounded before. I'm gonna hustle like I've never hustled before. But you kind of understand where he's coming from when he has a performance like this. It's like, yeah, man, I'm Al Horford. I can still come out here and give one of the best teams in the league the business. Eastern Conference rival, the business. Number 1 seed, the business. And so, like, you get why, like, he was maybe not thrilled, but, like, this is why, this is who he is. He is the fierce competitor that Philly brings it out in him, man. It's incredible.
Oh, dude, it's so good. I feel like we should hold up big cardboard signs or pictures of Joel Embiid's face, like behind the hoop. When Horford is shooting the ball or is out there on offense, because clearly just the vision of Embiid somewhere in his peripheral helps him perform at a high level. So
it's unbelievable.
Yeah. I'm available, Celtics coaching staff, if you need that level of expertise from a consultancy standpoint at any point. DJ Daniel, which I'm determined to say correctly on this show, in the chat. If you get this Al once a week during the playoffs, start the duck boats. Absolutely. Shout out to everyone in the chat. And if you're here for the first time, you're not subscribed to the First of the Floor YouTube channel, please subscribe. Help us with the algorithm. It's a competitive podcast circuit out there with the NBA and the Celtics. So do what you can to help us navigate the algorithm. Obviously, like the stream as well, which helps put this show in front of more people. Derek White, speaking of performing in front of people, which is a poor attempt at a segue, Jake. 27, 3, and 5, a steal, just 2 turnovers in this game. Well and truly back, I would say, after a small dip in productivity after the birth of his child, Hendricks.
Yeah, no performance anxiety from the mistress.
Sorry, not Hendricks.
Yeah. I was saying Hendricks was child number 1. And what's the second child's name?
I think it's Daxton, I think.
Daxton.
Yeah.
Can't say it's a name that I've come across very often. But
first time for everything.
Yeah, I love it. D White, man. The fourth quarter, 14 points in the fourth quarter, 27, 3, 5, 1 steal. There's 0 turnovers in the fourth quarter, just orchestrating. Man, this guy, like, I feel like he's getting sick of it. I saw one of his quotes being like, and like I always say, just make the right play. But that's just kind of what he did every time. It's like, what's the right play? It's be aggressive, get downhill, take floaters against Joel Embiid in the drop. Next play down, Paul Reed steps up in the drop. And then he just waits the perfect second to drop it off to Luke Cornett. When the Sixers made their run, they finally go up by 1 after being down like the whole game. What does Derek White do? The Celtics move the ball. Al Horford finds Derek White, top of the key, big silencing 3 to put the Celtics back up 2 with about like 8-9 minutes to go, as the Sixers felt like they were kind of like finally making their run against the short-handed Celtics. But D. White just made 3 plays in a row and built back like a 5-point Celtics lead. It was great to see him back because he's been so good and he has struggled offensively the last few games, but to see him find his footing and do it in like a really big moment like this, I'm always like, of all the guys like, I don't know, shooting or anything that they're doing to kind of like come back to earth, Derek White's shooting is like one of the things that I'm like, I wonder if that's something that kind of comes back down to earth, because everyone else is kind of doing what they've done before. Horford's been a pretty good shooter for most of his career, especially with the Celtics. Like, Tatum's actually due for some positive shooting regression. Derek White kind of had an outlier shooting season last year. Obviously, a lot of it was accredited to his like changing his actual shot a little bit. So I'm in the back of my mind, like him having like 3 games where he doesn't make shots. I'm like, oh, is this like the beginning of the regression? But I think that's just more just fan anxiety brain, like making stuff up. And like, it feels pretty...
Very familiar with that.
Yeah. It feels pretty sticky at this point.
Yeah, it's sticky. It's stuck. We observed him changing his shooting form over the last, half a season or so as well. So I think while maybe some shooting regression could be logically expected, it could be difficult to pinpoint exactly what that might look like, given that he has made vast improvements to his shooting mechanics as well. So hopefully, like you said, it's stuck or it's sticking around for a little while. Yeah, he had such a element of stability to the team, and in quarters like that second quarter where we had kind of lost those initial Joel Embiid to the bench minutes there, where and yes, it was Embiid to the bench and Cornet out to the court, which we want desperately to be a really amazing thing, but it isn't always. We lost those minutes, and last year that would have been nails in the coffin for the Celtics as far as their prospects to win a game. And we've got this level of stability, which Derek White, I think, might be the top contributor to, just in how solid he is. When the shot's not going down, like you said, Jake, he's still so present defensively. That stability is helping us survive these moments that are fortunately happening mostly in the second quarter, it seems, for a few games in a row now. And we're able to survive those outages and come back and win the game like we did in this one. So stability might be one of those thematic themes, Jake, that we refer to throughout the season.
Stabilizer. Yeah. I know we make the odd cricket reference here. He's like an opener. He's one of the two. He just has to get out there, get through a bunch of overs.
Get the shine off the ball.
Exactly. Get the shine off the ball and just stay out there. But really, he can play any role, which is why I love Derek White. It's like he can give you the 27, 3, and 5. But, against Toronto, he might just have 6 shots and have 2 steals and a block. Interestingly, something I picked up post game yesterday from the Sixers side is that, interestingly, it has been less about the non-Embiid minutes this season and more about the non-Maxi minutes this season. They've actually struggled way more in the non-Maxi minutes and the non-Embiid minutes, which is very interesting. Something to track and see how Sixers kind of deal with that issue. But yeah, man, Derek White's ability to give the game what it needs from quarter to quarter, low turnover. He's going to get you into some good offense. He can bail. Man, how many times has he been able to bail the Celtics out with late shot clock pull-ups now or getting downhill? He's able to really create a relatively quality look late in the shot clock.
Yeah, he's really grown to exceed the value of his contract. That trade is looking like an all-timer from Brad Stevens there, and that acquisition from the Spurs. So keep it up, Derek. Now,
Derek.
Jayson Tatum, we've got to give some kudos to as well, who came alive again in the fourth quarter. Was fairly solid all game, but we were talking in the playback stream there on the playback watch party, Jake, that we were worried, just like the Sixers game a week ago, that he wasn't asserting himself the way that he needed to, especially with the notable absences from the team with Jalen and Porzingis out. But Tatum really, really came alive in the fourth there. I do want to call out the fact that he is the Inked NBA MVP, according to Inked NBA on Instagram, who focus on, body art and tattoos of NBA players. They nominated him MVP, so that bodes well for potential future MVP awards, I think.
I like that. He does have some, as someone that has 0 tattoos and is someone that's not especially cool, he is the type of guy who's going to be the MVP of Inked. He's just aura, I believe, is kind of the word going around NBA Twitter these days. He definitely has that, just the cool, calm, collected. He's got the fits. He's got the ink. He's kind of just embodying just coming into town, whether it's in the Garden or on the road, and just dominating on and off the court.
Just a cool guy all around. Certainly nice. a cool guy. It must be nice. I can only imagine. Fourth quarter last night, his passing really came alive, Jake, and it looked like he was picking apart the Celtics, the Sixers defense rather, with his passing and setting guys up, and that 3-man tandem of Derek White, Al Horford and Tatum really just shut anything down from the Sixers side late in the game. What were your thoughts from Tatum's performance in this one?
Yeah, I think it kind of uneven until the fourth quarter, and he had 3 turnovers for the game, which is not it's not a good number, but you can kind of live with 3 turnovers when he's got that kind of high of usage. But 2 of them were just live turnover not paying attention and threw the ball to Jaden Springer, which was just, we can't have that. But
Odd.
Sorry, excuse me, as I try and get down this smoothie while I podcast before I get on the plane. But the fourth quarter, 10 points in the fourth quarter, and I was looking this up yesterday. So now fourth quarter scoring, I know was kind of a bit of a talking point in the Heat series, and I know there feels like there's this narrative that Tatum doesn't perform in the fourth quarter when I don't feel like that's true. But this year, he is 6th in the NBA in fourth quarter scoring with 8.9 points per game. So that's 6th in the league, but the ranks 2nd through 5th on that list, all averaging 9.0 points. So he's 0.1 points away from being tied 2nd on that list. And you have to take into account that he's actually not played in, 4 fourth quarters? So, like, that's taking into account
Sure.
not playing those. So, like, he would easily be in the 1, 2, 3 slot if he was actually playing these games. But then he's on a 67.2% true shooting in the fourth quarter with 8.9 points. Like, that is absurd. And I think a lot of that has to do with the process. Like, yesterday we saw it again, like the mismatch hunting. And even if they don't get the mismatch, comfortable posting up to Tobias Harris. I'm not sure if that was even in the fourth quarter, but he took Tobias Harris in the post, who's like, in theory, the same size as Tatum or bigger, and Tatum was like moving him easily. But yeah, so going to that spot and posting up, going to that fadeaway, drawing fouls on Melton with the pump fake, or kicking it out and finding guys, as you said.
Yeah, that turnaround fadeaway shot, sort of Kobe MJ style, is like he's hitting that at such a reliable clip. And you mentioned it with Tobias Harris, like he was nothing but a warm body out there, it seemed, defensively. It did not trouble Tatum at all. And with Tatum's length, that's a shot he's always going to be able to get off. He's always going to be able to get, if that's now considered a clean look. And I think if you look at the numbers, like you just put out there, Jake, like it is a clean look for him. That's another curveball. We were cataloging the curveballs as we picked them up so far this season, with Joe having mentioned it as a point of emphasis going into the season, and that's a huge curveball, and you love to see it. It's something that he can go to at any point of the game against, presumably any opponent as well. So
yeah, it does feel like he's going to it at times when some other stuff isn't working, which is the whole point of the curveball, right? It's like, he felt, if the pull-up three wasn't working or he was having issues getting to the rim with a shot blocker, sometimes it was like, oh, where does he go from here? And to have this new weapon absolutely changes how consistent he can be. And, that's why his efficiency so far this year, I think, is up. Obviously, he's shooting better from three. And I think part of that is he doesn't have to rely on just the pull-up three. He can go to the mid-post, which helps him. You know how they always say, get yourself to the line, knock down a free throw. I think this is similar in that you get yourself a bit closer to the rim. You get yourself a different type of look. You're in the flow. You're using your physicality. And so far, it really does seem to be like he knocks one of those down, and similar to the Knicks game, and then all of a sudden he hits two pull-up dagger threes or a catch and shoot three. That's like the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, just the rhythm of his game and the pacing of his game. It's so much more mature and well orchestrated. It's great. I don't know. I could just talk all day about Jayson Tatum, but we do need to move on for the sake of time. The stock exchange, I guess, let's frame it this way. We talked about the non-Maxi minutes being a problem for the Sixers so far this season, which is to say that Maxi's been incredibly good. And we're very fortunate with the stock exchange. We've got a lot of defensive firepower to throw at him. What did you see in terms of that matchup in this game against the Sixers?
Man, this is a tough matchup for Maxi. As good as he has been, he just is. He's smaller. You can be a bit physical with him, and that's what I wanted to see going to this game was be physical, kind of get up into Maxi, get your pickup point a little bit higher, and we saw that a lot. So Drew Holiday guarded Maxi on 27 possessions, gave up 4 points, 2 of 3 shooting. So like if someone was a propagandist on the Sixers side, they would say Maxi shot 66% when guarded by Drew Holiday. The real numbers would be like, well, he was only able to actually get a shot off 4 out of those 27, or 3 out of those 27. Possessions. And then D. White, 18 possessions, 5 points on 1 of 2 shooting. That is just
It's not going to get it done.
Not going to get it done. And I have in the notes to pull up a Maxi tweet here, which I've forgotten to upload. But basically, the tweet is the stat is like Maxi on the season is shooting like between 48 and 49% from the field, and in 2 games against the Celtics, he's shooting 38.1%.
Right.
This is a really difficult matchup for the Sixers, and I think James Harden, for all his faults, did give them another, and obviously they were missing Oubre and they were missing Batum, who did give them elements that they didn't have yesterday. But, obviously the Celtics were missing Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis. But with James Harden, they had another truly like dynamic ball handler who could shoot, pass, and score. Without him, it really is only Maxey and Embiid. And so you can kind of just let D White and let Drew Holiday just be like, that's the assignment. If you shut Maxey down, the offense is really going to struggle, especially when the Celtics are able to make Embiid uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, with the stock exchange on the offensive side of things, I thought Drew really carried this team in the first half with his production offensively. Talking about curveballs, that post-up continues to be a factor from Drew offensively, where we can get an easy look against the smaller guard, a guard who we might say is light in the ass with the case of Maxey. Drew just being able to carry the load and, again, we'll use that word, add stability to the team while Tatum's kind of figuring out the rhythm of the game is a really important factor, and it's going to be huge in the playoffs, man, just to have that kind of look when the game slows down in the half court. I can't wait to see it against Dame Lillard, who is a little bit of a chunkier guy than Maxey, but I think that's going to be a good exploit for Drew there. So shouts to Drew for helping us through a difficult-ish first half.
Yeah, man, 6 for 12 from the field in the first half. 5 boards, assist, a steal. Yeah, again, similar to Tatum in that, like, if things aren't going well, it's like, where is Maxey? Or even Melton, who is a good defender. Drew, the stump, the tree trunk, man. This dude is tough. Like, he is so strong and so stout. Again, not something that I can relate to, really, at all. But, he really knows how to use his dimensions to his advantage and put guys under the basket and create easy looks. And when like in a game like this where you just need to find offense, like the offense isn't going to be as clean as it would be on a night when you don't have Porzingis and Jaylen. To have a guy, and when you get to the playoffs, man, like to have Drew, Tatum, all these guys that can take advantage of mismatches really, really well. It's and something that I noticed in the fourth quarter as well is that teams just really respect his shooting gravity. Like teams are less willing to leave him open than they were willing to leave Marcus open.
Sure.
And for good reason. And that's kind of just opening the floor up a little bit in those crunch time moments as well.
I feel a lot of personal guilt for like getting over the loss of Marcus so soon. Do you feel the same way? Yeah.
When I noticed the spacing yesterday with like kind of, I forget who was guarding him, and then they doubled him in the corner too. It's just like that's like Marcus isn't really getting double teamed ever. So like for him to draw that level of attention and for him to make this an easy pass, it was back out to the top of the key, and then back to Pritchard, who ended up actually throwing it back to Drew for the corner 3 because they scrambled off of Drew. Nick Nurse, what are you doing, mate? But the offensive, like not even his ability, but like the respect, which obviously comes from his ability, that the opposing defenses show him, that just opens up the floor in a way that Marcus unfortunately did not.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough. I was just searching for an analogy. I was almost going to say it's like when you get out of a relationship and you realize only afterwards in hindsight that it was actually a toxic one, but that obviously wasn't the case with Marcus. It's much more nuanced than that. So
yes.
We'll work on it and come back with something with the next podcast. Now, we are going to talk about the rest of the roster. The bench were pretty integral during certain stages of this game. But first, as I fumble for the button here, we just want a quick word from our sponsor, FanDuel.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
What do you got, Jake?
I got, if you, to take advantage of that money line offer, you want to bet straight up Dolphins, Raiders, money line. Dolphins coming off a bye. Raiders, bad. The new coach bump, done. Dolphins, money line, Raiders.
Dolphins money line. Got it. Gamble responsibly, folks.
Yes.
Now, the bench. The bench were very... God, I think my hangover's starting to catch up with me here, Jake. I was going to say the bench were very incredible last night, which is a fact, so maybe I'll just still run with it.
Sure.
Saw guys that we don't normally see. Svi Mihailik, for example, very productive off the bench. Delano Banton as well had a nice stretch. Didn't shoot the ball well, but demonstrated an ability to play within the scheme, both offensively and defensively. And then with his amazing theoretical abilities, Jake, he was important. I'm going to stop talking now and throw it over to you.
The theoretical version of Delano Banton. I can only imagine the amount of coaches that have just been like, oh man, if only we can teach this guy how to develop one reliable way to put the orange ball into the basket, he's going to be the best
crucial
player.
part of the game.
Yeah, the best player on our team. There's going to be no one that can stop us. They are yet to figure out a way, including the Celtics staff. But what I love is how everybody's on the same page. Every bench guy that came in was crashing the glass, pushing the pace, like defending as well as they possibly could. Svi Mihailik, I haven't seen a lot of you, but I am now aware why people have been saying you're not good at defense, because very clear that is not your strong suit. It's I always find it funny. Like, he's quite athletic. Like, we've seen him throw almost down that reverse dunk and stuff like that. But the defensive foot speed is not something that he possesses. But Banton to come in, have the 5 rebounds in 8 minutes, that tip in, he does give you an element as a ball handler that like not a lot of other ball handlers do. Like just by being that tall, especially if he's going to actually buy into the rebounding on both ends, because he can give you an extra possession, and he's going to make your defense solid just by giving you that rebounding. And then so in the previous podcast, we were both talking about how O'Shea and Lamar, we were all talking about that. Don't want to leave out big dog spoons here. But we were all expecting O'Shea and Lamar to play. Maybe we're going to see some O'Shea or Lamar at the 5. We saw neither, which is very surprising. The fact that Joe was willing to kind of go away from those two guys and go to guys that we haven't really seen at all on a night where we were missing 2 guys, to not see either of them was very surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with Svi, you could argue that spacing is such an integral part of the approach against a team like the Sixers or any team with a massive big and certain levels of rim protection. I think Svi, his shooting threat, the threat of his shooting is very important. Can't say the same for Banton, but he had some good moments. He exceeded my expectations while shooting like shit as well. So, yeah, I just think this was more of a game for the shooting skills of Svi and less so for O'Shea and Lamar Stevens, who don't necessarily possess those skills. So we'll see him again, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I just think I wonder if it was, the fact that they hadn't actually gotten real minutes. Was Joe willing to, show them that he believes in them and show them that they deserve the chance as well? Or was it like a true tactical reason for playing those guys? Because obviously Banton's not giving you anything from a shooting perspective, similar to O'Shea and Lamar, but Svi definitely, he made one really nice transition 3, and his willingness just to get them up is super important. Again, teams are at least thinking about his shooting ability in a way that they're not thinking about O'Shea's and Lamar's.
Yep. Svi doesn't hesitate, man. He chucks him up. I love it. He's a gunner.
Yes, and I love that, it takes a special kind of mentality. I think you can see how Pritchard struggles with it. We want him to be a gunner for the most part, and he's he's not quite every time I touch the ball, I'm getting this thing up. Svi is if there's a slither it's getting up. I can move the ball if I need to, but if there's a look right here, I know my job, and I'm gonna get him up.
Absolutely. Look, a couple of things to wrap up on here. We're sort of 9-2. Obviously, great start to the year again, Jake. And the mind wanders back to this time last year. We can't help it, even though I think we've got enough data now to make a good case for this year genuinely being an improvement on last year, both being hot starts. What are some comparisons that you've drawn up from this year compared to last year to help sort of make a delineation between the two?
Yeah, I went in and had a look at the kind of the numbers from the 21-5 start last year compared to now we're 9-2. Obviously, smaller sample size, but because you're looking for like so what went wrong last year? Again, to reference our secret meeting at Surly's Pub in Surrey Hills, there was some confident words exchanged.
That's a generous description.
Some confident words were exchanged, and basically from that moment on, we never quite reached that level. And so it's like, okay, should we be like looking for warning signs? Like, is there anything that the numbers are going to glean that should we be prepared for something similar to happen this year? Mm-hmm. So 2022, 21-5, we had a 9.2 net rating, 119.9 offensive rating, 110.8 defensive rating, 41.5 3-point attempts at 40%.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
And that's the number.
Okay.
Right there is the 40% on threes for a 26-game sample size. That is that would be like leading the league by a full percentage point and a half last year if they had sustained that the whole way. We may have seen, we potentially should have seen that coming.
I remember the conversations we had at that time. Being like, is this sustainable? Yeah, sure, it's sustainable.
Yeah, why not?
It was not. It was not sustainable.
A few moments later, it was not sustainable. 2023, net rating 13.4, so about 4 points higher than 2022. Offensive rating of 120 on the dot, which is pretty much identical with last year. And the biggest difference, defensive rating 106.6 versus 110.8. We're actually getting up more three-pointers, getting up 44.2 versus 41.5 last year, but at 36.8%. So we're at 11th in the league right now in three-point percentage, and I think we felt it. There's been a bunch of games this year we haven't really shot that well on like really good looks. And like Hauser was an example yesterday. Like he ends up going 2 for 8, and he missed just wide open three after wide open three yesterday. He was kind of due to miss a couple, but the biggest difference is obviously the defense. And we spoke a little bit about it last episode when Spoonie brought those numbers here. That's the biggest difference. The biggest difference is the defense.
It really is.
It really is.
Yep.
And so, yeah. I thought you were going to jump in.
Yeah, no, go for it, man.
Clearly, the defense is the biggest difference. And on that, like I was reading an article that Adam Himmelsbach put out on the Globe today, and talking about Drew Holiday and his role and how Joe has empowered him. And like in the article, it says, no coach has ever given him as much of a voice and as much responsibility as Mazzulla has over the first season's month. And Drew being like, yeah, I've never really, I'm just out there. I'm telling him what I'm seeing. We're going from man to zone in one possession. He's really trusting me and empowering me in a way that I have never felt before. And I don't remember hearing, I feel like we heard this a little bit, just that was kind of Marcus on a game-to-game basis. He was kind of like the defensive captain, but they weren't going to these different defenses last year like they are this year. And it kind of feels like they're making Drew Holiday the defensive captain. And I've got a couple of clips here from Spoonie, and the file's actually named Spoonie D. So here we go. So the first one here, Pritchard picks up full court, 94 feet, and then it flows into a zone. And like they're expecting it to be man, and then Marcus Morris thinks it's going to be an easy pass, but no, they're actually in zone, which makes the pass easy for Drew Holiday to steal. And then on this next one, it's like soft court, a bit of soft pressure, and then back into drop coverage. And Al Horford plays it perfectly. Maxi's not awesome at making that pass yet. And then now there's this one where it looks like it's like a zone, but then it also looks like it's a box and one. But then it's just kind of like Drew Holiday is playing free safety. Now he's now double teaming Embiid. Now he comes back out to Pat Beverly and he's like, yeah, if you're shooting 13% from three, Pat Bev, be my guest. Yeah. So interesting the way that, Joe has empowered Drew Holiday. And I really think it speaks to the way that Joe is approaching his whole coaching philosophy. Like, sacrifice has been the buzzword coming out of this team, and Drew Holiday taking the fewest field goal attempts since his rookie year, by far, like 4 field goal attempts fewer than the last 4 seasons. Al Horford willing to come off the bench and finding ways that he can really empower them in a different way by giving Drew Holiday this responsibility. Probably smart to do anyway because he's the man for the job, but
Sure.
giving him this responsibility and this collaborative defensive effort between both the coaching staff and the players is really cool, and giving them this dynamic ability on the court.
Yeah, and it's already looking really fluid, Jake. The shuffling of the defenses coming up the court on different possessions, it's very Miami Heat-like in that sense. They've given us, and many teams, so much trouble, particularly in the postseason with that style of defense, that shuffling defense. And it's looking so fluid for the Celtics already. I can't help but imagine and salivate over how fluid it's going to look come the playoffs. So really good to see it. I'm just... as a hoops purist, I'm excited to see defense being a major part of the narrative again after we kind of lost it there. We fumbled at it for a year there. So
I did
to have it back.
I didn't know you thought of yourself as a hoops purist.
Aren't we all in our own special way? It's a broad spectrum. It's a broad spectrum. But I like post-ups and defense and old school foundational parts of the game,
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm a hoops purist in the way that I like the Celtics when they win.
Yeah.
More than when they lose. And that's
the purest form.
The purest form of wins. That's my favorite type.
Now, let's end on this. It's in-season tournament time,
Let's
baby.
go.
We got the court here if you're watching on YouTube. It's back, although we are going to be up in Toronto for
Yes.
a blinder of a red court, I believe,
Jesus.
is what we're to expect up there. Jake, what do you got for us on the in-season tournament as I continue to delegate to you and be lazy?
Pass the rock. So, everybody needs to understand that we really want to win the in-season tournament.
Desperately.
We desperately want to win it. One, because winning, again, hoops purist, winning is fun.
Is it a must-win?
It might actually be a must-win, Ben.
Yes, we're finally on the same page.
Yesterday, in hindsight, was a must-win too. So you were right on that as well. So the reason we want to win is because, one, winning is fun, but two, there's going to be whatever teams are good at the moment are going to make it out of the pool stages into the next round. And so this is going to be like the Timberwolves, the Pacers, all the teams that have been good in the first part of the season are going to be into the next rounds or the knockout stages. And they're going to be like the nationally televised games. They're going to be standalone. They're going to form narratives. It's going to be they're going to be moments. I actually think that the NBA has done a good job here because they're going to be standalone games. Good team on good team. We might end up getting a rematch with the Timberwolves, much earlier than we necessarily would otherwise. So that's why we want to care. Going to be the finals in Vegas, Celtics versus the T-Wolves in the finals. No other games on for the day, just Celtics T-Wolves get to raise a trophy. It'll mean something in the moment. And now looking at the standings of the in-season tournament, you'll see right here the Celtics are number 1 in the standings here with a winning percentage of 1,000, undefeated, 1-0.
That seems good.
So it's important to note the 2 tiebreakers. First is head-to-head, which is good for us because the Brooklyn Nets are 2-1, surprisingly, in East Group C. That's our group, Group C. Mm-hmm. East Group C, the Brooklyn Nets are 2-1. But the reason we're ahead is, one, because we have the head-to-head and we have an undefeated winning percentage. But secondly, the point differential. So we kind of sleptwalked through the second half of that in-season tournament game. So our point differential is plus 14, but that is the best point differential on the board by a pretty good margin to start. So if we beat the Raptors, we're pretty much guaranteed to go through. We'll just need, even if we kind of lose the next 2, which we won't, we're going to be in a pretty good spot. So just lock the in-season tournament up, get out of the pool stages. You don't want to, have a must-win to get out of the pool stages against the Orlando Magic because we always lose against the Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
But it is nice to see the Chicago Bulls in our pool as well right now, because as tough as they have been for the Celtics to play over the recent years, they are a disaster. They might not even have a couple of their players by the time we play them, depending on how the trade market shakes out. So I'm in. I'm in on the in-season tournament and want a W tomorrow.
Yeah, let's just hoist as many trophies as we can. Hoist the NBA Cup. Is it an actual cup? Can they scull a beer out of it if they after hoisting it?
Well, you just put it up on the screen. Does it look like you can pour beer into it? Like,
let's bring it up. Where is it?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe. It's hard to tell from 2D, you know?
Well, we've got to win the thing and find out, practically.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, the line for that Raptors game is 5.5, which is a little tighter than I would expect, but I know we've got some doubtful personnel with Porzingis still questionable, Jalen still questionable also. So, but, just the team's humming along. So as long as they don't lose sight of this sort of newly found and built identity, it's got to be, I don't want to say an easy win against the Raptors, but an expected win and a must win.
Yeah. It's a must win, absolutely. Expected win, I think so. I do think it'll be tighter than the most recent one. They're going to be out for blood. Joe Mazzulla called that coach's challenge. Don't forget, this is a revenge game, not 6 days ago.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, so this is a revenge game. This is going to be dirty, bloody, gritty. I hope we just get KP available for this game, because he's a real problem for the Raptors. Like they really just don't really have anything for him. Pirtle, he's basically just a worse Embiid, and who also will struggle with drop bigs and stuff like that. So that's who I'm like. Obviously, I want Jalen to play as well, and Al's probable, but
with a
I don't
toe
want to
thing?
I don't want to overextend Al. I don't want, we took him out of the garage. We went on a little road trip, but he's back. We've put protective cover over him. Yeah, and we play the Bucks next week, and we can pull him back out for that one. But I'd like to keep him in mint condition the next week or so.
Yeah, preserve that value. Absolutely. Well, we'll see. I guess the news about the availability of some of these guys is going to emerge very soon, probably overnight, our time. Yep. So we'll wake up to either some very bad news or some very good news. In the meantime, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back early next week. Jake, love your work, mate. Until next time, go Celtics.